Today, in Abbreviated Bios, we will look at a college president who stood up against the vicious ideas of the French Revolution taking hold in American higher learning. Yes, a college president with a spine. His name was Timothy Dwight. My name is Stephen Yoder. Timothy Dwight IV was born on May 14, 1752, in Northampton, Massachusetts, to Timothy Dwight III, which makes sense, who was a successful merchant, and Mary Edwards, the daughter of Jonathan Edwards. Mary educated Timothy at home. By age 4, he could read the Bible. He attended school for a few years, starting at age 6, and learned to read Latin. Then Mary homeschooled him again until he entered Yale at the age of 13. Timothy graduated from Yale in 1769 with highest honors. After graduation, he became the principal of Hopkins Grammar School in New Haven. In 1771, he returned to Yale as a tutor and also to earn a master's degree. He studied 15 hours per day so intensely that he permanently damaged his eyesight. He earned his master's degree in 1772, then turned to studying theology. He studied sacred music and wrote many hymns and anthems. Dwight wrote hymns like I Love Thy Kingdom, Lord, and patriotic songs such as Columbia, Columbia, to Glory Arise. Dwight helped form the Hartford Wits, which was devoted to beautiful writing. He wanted to give America a worthy body of poetry. Timothy Dwight, Joseph Howe, and John Trumbull all worked to broaden Yale's curriculum. Timothy married Mary Woolsey on March 3, 1777. They would have 8 sons together, one of whom, which is pictured, is James Dwight, who also became a pastor. During the American Revolution, Dwight was appointed chaplain of the Connecticut Continental Brigade and then joined the Army at West Point. He inspired the troops with his sermons and also wrote patriotic hymns like Columbia, Columbia, to Glory Arise. However, when his father died in 1778, Timothy resigned and went home to take charge of the family estate at Northampton. During the next few years, he ran 2 large farms, established a school for both sexes, which became so popular he had to hire 2 assistants. He served 2 one-year terms in the Massachusetts state legislature. He would not accept election to Continental Congress because he would not leave his ministry. In 1783, Dwight became the pastor of the Congregational Church at Greenfield Hill in Fairfield, Connecticut. He spent 12 years there and again set up a school for both sexes. During this time, Dwight also wrote an epic poem, The Conquest of Canaan, that he hoped would be a rival to Homer's Odyssey. Most critics, however, believe it is a tedious work. In 1789, the French Revolution began. While inspired by the American Revolution, it quickly turned into an anti-Christian, blood-soaked, mob-run mess. Priests were murdered by the hundreds and churches were destroyed or turned into temples of reason. By the 1790s, French deists were spreading their anti-Christian doctrines in America. The popular books at colleges in America included Thomas Paine's The Age of Reason and Ethan Allen's Reason, the Only Oracle. Jacobin clubs were being formed on college campuses and demanding a French-like revolution in America. There were no identified Christians at Yale College. This was the state of things when Timothy Dwight was named Yale's president in 1795. Lyman Beecher, a student back then, described the situation. Before he came, college was in a most ungodly state. The college church was almost extinct. Most of the students were skeptical and rowdies were plenty. Dwight immediately took charge of the situation. He fired all faculty members teaching the French rationalist point of view. He began holding open discussions with undergraduates. He rebutted their arguments and expounded the gospel of Jesus Christ. Dwight continually spoke on the social catastrophe of the French Revolution, especially the bloodlust of the Reign of Terror. He expected students to choose a side. In his words, will you enthrone a goddess of reason before the tale of Christ? Will you burn your Bibles? Will you crucify anew your Redeemer? Will you deny your God? He refuted Voltaire in his The Triumph of Infidelity. In 1798, he wrote The Nature and Danger of Infidel Philosophy. He wrote The Duty of Americans at the Present Crisis. Over Dwight's tenure, 3 Christian revivals broke out at Yale. The college, which didn't have a professing Christian when Dwight arrived, began sending out preachers, pastors, and missionaries. The French deist threat was vanquished. During his time at Yale, Dwight was nationally famous and his sermons were regularly printed in newspapers. One famous sermon was an 1805 sermon written after Alexander Hamilton's death called Folly, Guilt, and Mischief of Dueling. Another famous sermon, which was included in the Library of America's True Crime Anthology, was a funeral sermon for the funeral of Lydia Beadle and her 4 children, murdered by William Beadle, her husband, in a murder-suicide. The sermon is mostly about William's sin in striving against God. Timothy Dwight had a huge and mostly positive influence on Yale students, although some who didn't like him called him Pope Dwight. He was never touched by any scandal, but his eyesight was so bad he had to dictate to his secretary. Improvements Dwight made at Yale included making the faculty cooperate with the president as part of college government. He encouraged the teaching of science. He established a medical department. He established theological and law departments. He also helped found Andover Theological Seminary and the American Board of Commissioners for Foreign Missions. Timothy Dwight suffered for years from prostate cancer. He was in so much pain that he would get up at night and walk for miles. He finally died of it on January 11, 1817. Timothy Dwight revitalized Yale and helped fight off French Deism, which was really communism, and it held it off from America for over 100 years. Thank you for watching Abbreviated Bios. If you like this sort of thing, share it, like it, subscribe to it on YouTube or Rumble, and I hope you're here the next time. Bye.